What's going on, everyone? So, earlier we saw the Memphis Grizzlies and the Orlando Magic pull off the first trade. Now, we thought it was going to be Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was going to set the market, kind of put things in perspective wherever he ended up. Spurs, Houston Rockets, Miami Heat seem to be the three teams kind of in the mix, right? I still stand by. If Houston wants Kevin Durant, Houston will get Kevin Durant because they have all of the picks that the Phoenix Suns want and need, right? Literally their own picks. But San Antonio, I do think, has a real opportunity to go get Kevin Durant. Supposedly, Kevin Durant wants to be a Spur. Supposedly, his camp prefers him to be a Spur. So I do think that, they do have a little bit of a leg in, but we'll see. Time will tell. But one thing that the Orlando Magic and the Memphis Grizzlies trade might have done is might have just raised the price for Kevin Durant. Now, there's a couple things, right? One, I do think we need to put the Desmond Bane's trade in perspective, right? So Desmond Bane went for 4 firsts, a pick swap, KCP in his contract, and Cole Anthony, right? Now, KCP was on a bad contract, an overpaid contract, as well as, had multiple years still on his deal and was just an awkward fit for an Orlando team that they don't have the shot creation. Like KCP was excellent on the Lakers and the Nuggets because Lakers have LeBron James and the Nuggets have Nikola Jokic, right? Orlando doesn't have that level of playmaking. So KCP had his struggles, but he's only like a year removed from being a legit all NBA defense, as well as a 40+% three-point shooter. So it actually made some sense for Memphis. But Orlando, if they wanted to get off of KCP's contract, probably would have had to given up a first. So the problem is, what is Desmond Bane's true value? Desmond Bane's is on Desmond Bane, keep saying Bane, is on a pretty hefty contract himself, right? But he's, a 19-6-5 guy, right? He's a better shot creator, better, playmaker and whatnot than a KCP. And he also fits Orlando's timeline, right? See a lot of Orlando overpaid. And yes, they did, in my opinion, a little bit, but I think it was worth it for them to get a guy that fits their timeline as well as the better player. They got the best player in the trade and were able to get off of KCP's contract. But it kind of begs the question of okay, well, how much is Desmond Bane really worth? Okay, so is he 3 firsts in a pick swap? And then one of those firsts was to get off of KCP? Possibly, right? It just depends on how other teams value it. Also, it depends on how teams kind of view it. There are outlier circumstances, right? The Rudy Gobert trade, for example. Everyone was like, oh no, this just ruined the NBA. Now everybody's going to go for a superstar package. And everybody was like, no, Minnesota overpaid for it because they were desperate in a situation where they needed a guy, and it was just like an outlier thing, right? Every year there seems to be that trade early on where everyone goes, this set the market, and it's everyone just kind of understands what it was. But Desmond Bane is a young, talented player, right? Kevin Durant, context matters too with KD, is that he is older, 37, compared to, Desmond Bane, who will be 27 in literally a week, right? But Kevin Durant is the better player. Kevin Durant is still better, right? And any team that's trading for Kevin Durant understands the circumstances and is looking to try to win sooner rather than later. Right? Desmond Bane, you're looking at it as Orlando is going into the mix, going into the fight, especially in a wide open East. That they're looking at it as hey, we might be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the East next season, right? Because Boston's going to be kind of out of the equation next year, and you're going to have, the Pacers, the Cavs, and the Knicks. Maybe we can be in the thick of it. Maybe even overtake that team, right? But they're also a team that's looking at it as Desmond Bane is young, so you have time to kind of keep retooling and rebuilding. Also, yes, they gave up a bunch of picks, but they didn't have to give up any core players. Orlando didn't give up a Jalen Suggs or any, they didn't give up any core players that was a necessity for them, right? So to me, I look at it as a team like the Spurs, right? Yeah, they're going to have to pay anyway, right? You're going to have to pay to play regardless, right? It's just to what degree does Desmond Bane raise the price of Kevin Durant? Because I do see a lot of conversation going around of does this change what Kevin Durant did. Now, I think if you're the Suns, you're trying to play it off as such. I think if you're the Suns, you're now pointing to that Desmond Bane's trade and going, look at what they just got for him. So our value for KD is actually fair or below what it should be or whatever. We're doing you a favor, right? But that's part of being a good GM. That's part of good negotiations. It's part of good just conversation period of like, hey, yes, but circumstances, context, all these things matter, right? Yes, Desmond Bane went for a haul, but KCP was involved and they needed to get off of his contract. Oh, by the way, they also got a 26-year-old who's soon to be 27-year-old. We're trading for a 37-year-old that has the risk of injuries, that has the risk of decline, that has the risk of just retiring at any point. Literally, he could play this year and then just go, you know what, instead of it, or, get a nagging injury and just go, I don't want to go through this again, I'm going to retire. There's a lot of risk in Kevin Durant. He's still an incredible player. He's still probably a top 15 to 20 player in the league. He still, I think, could do wonders for a team like the San Antonio Spurs and really kind of help elevate that team. But again, circumstances and context is very important. And again, if you're the Suns, you're trying to paint that context in your favor while these other teams are trying to paint that context in the other field. I don't think this is going to change anything. I don't think that this is going to impact the Kevin Durant trade in any manner. I think the Spurs know what they're willing to give up, whatever that is. We all have our opinions and perspectives on what that should be and how much that should be. But in reality, it doesn't matter what we think. It doesn't matter what we want. See a lot of people that are like, you cannot trade Jeremy Sohan in a Kevin Durant trade. Well, guess what? If the San Antonio Spurs are like, hey, we're willing to do it, doesn't matter what we think. It doesn't matter how we feel about it. At the end of the day, they're going to give up whatever they're willing to give up to land a guy like Kevin Durant, right? And they have also, I'm sure, their price of like, no, that's too much. We're not going to go that far. Same thing with Houston, same thing with Minnesota, same thing with Toronto supposedly is willing to make a play on Kevin Durant without him guaranteeing a new contract and all that stuff, right? Like there's a million things that could happen. And every moment, every day, it's like every hour there's a new report or a new thing. First, San Antonio was out of the mix and it was, Minnesota, Houston, and Miami. Then all of a sudden, San Antonio's back in the mix, and Minnesota is now out of the equation because they're so far apart as far as trades go, and they don't want to trade. And again, you hear all this. It's this, and then it's this, and then it's this. No one really knows. It's all just rumors and speculations. All of it. You don't think Phoenix is putting out fake reports, try to drive up price? Of course they are. You don't think teams like San Antonio and Houston and all these other teams are putting out reports to try to lower price? Of course they are. It's the game. And one team wants this, the other team wants to give up this, and they find a way to meet in the middle, right? And make it feel like everybody wins. And also, big thing that I believe it, like, I've talked about this in the past, I don't mind a team overpaying if it's a deal that makes sense and particularly long-term. Right? I'm okay if the Spurs were to overpay for Kevin Durant, I would be a little more disappointed than if they were to overpay for, say, like a Trey Murphy, right? Trey Murphy's not Kevin Durant, likely never will be Kevin Durant, but Trey Murphy fits a need, is a very good player, already proved to be a 25-5 guy, right? But he's also 24 years old and could be a foundation piece. Best case scenario in the draft is you're probably drafting a guy that's like him. So I don't mind a slight overpay if it's a guy that fits the need, makes sense, has upside and potential, and is more of a long-term answer. I don't want you to overpay for a guy that's probably off the team in 3 years, right? Now, if you win a championship or something like that, then that's a different story, right? Because, again, you could stay the course and never win a championship. But is Kevin Durant alone enough to make the Spurs a championship team and win a championship? I don't know. It's possible, right? What does Wemby look like in year 3? What does Castle look like in year 2? How does De'Aaron Fox impact winning along that? How does the fit work, right? And more than anything, what other players and pieces are they putting around those guys? Because if you just do Kevin Durant and that's it, I don't think that they're a true contender. If you get Kevin Durant and then you make some other moves because now you're all in, then maybe we could be having a conversation. But anyway, as always, just as a discussion, pass a question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.